To prevent an exception from terminating your program when it's thrown, we use something called a try statement, and this handles or catches the exception, and it follows this syntax. It starts with a try, the try suite, then a catch, and then the catch suite. And the content of this catch in parentheses is the exception class that is thrown that you want to catch. And it's given to you as a variable here. In this example, I call it name, and then you can use name inside the catch suite. So first, the try suite is executed. The try suite typically includes the code that throws the exception, but you can really put anything inside there. If during the course of executing the try suite an exception is thrown that is not handled otherwise, then the catch suite is executed with variable name bound to the exception. So here's a little code example. In this example, we create a file name, and then as in homework 9, I think, we try to read in from the file name and then parse a line as an integer. This block of code actually raises or throws two types of errors. The first is an IO exception or a file not found exception if this file name does not exist. The second error is when you try to print or when you try to parse this integer from a string. If this input is not numerical type, then you'll get a number format exception here. So this code is executed. If an error is thrown, then it goes to the appropriate catch section, and you can actually have multiple catch suites where you can catch multiple types of errors and handle different types of errors differently. So there are several methods to help with debugging with these exception classes. One is print stack trace, another is get message, and there are several more as well. So here is a demo. I'll try to include this file somewhere. It's called trycatch.java. So in this example, I have a file name called data.txt. It looks like this. All it does is it has a bunch of numbers on separate lines. And so the main part of this code is that I want to read in this file line by line and then sum all the numbers inside it. And I do that with this file sum method. So it takes in a file name, it reads in all the lines from a file, parses each line into an integer, calculates a sum, and then returns the sum. But I have a special case where if the sum is less than 100, then I throw a new illegal argument exception, and I pass in this error message, sum less than 100. And now let's take a look at this block over here. So first thing is that these try and catch suites are similar to if statements, for loops, where when you use one, it opens up a new scope. So any variable you create inside these blocks does not actually exist outside. So that's why I declare this int total before the try catch block. So inside here, I call file sum, I pass in my file name data.txt, and then here are the several types of errors that can occur. The file not found exception because of this file right here, the number format exception because of the parse int, and then this is our custom exception, the illegal argument exception that we throw ourselves down here. So let's try run this. Okay, and our file sum is 316, which looking at our data file looks correct because when you sum these, it's 316. So that's correct. However, let's try and make these errors occur. So let's first try and see what happens when our sum is less than 100. So I'll change this to 50. I rerun. It prints illegal argument exception, file sum -5. So as you can see right here, only this block of code was executed inside this entire try catch. Total was set to -5, and then we get the file sum as -5 after. So let's go back and fix this, and then try to see what happens during this number format exception. So suppose I change one of the lines to hello. I try and run this again. I get a number format exception. File sum -5 again. Over here, actually, let me change this to something else. So now file sum is -10, and only this block was executed right here. And lastly, let's see how to throw this file not found exception. So I'll change this to data, or let's change it to error.txt. Okay. Let me fix this. So now we're going to try and read in from a file called error.txt, which does not exist in my current directory. Recompile, run, and then we see file not found exception, file sum is -1, which is what we did in this block. And last thing I want to show you guys is if we actually use one of the exception class methods, such as print stack trace. So I'll compile, then I'll run, and then when I print the stack trace, it prints a whole lot more information, like this. So yeah, that's the gist of throwing exceptions and how to handle them. One of the other important things to note about this file is that I threw the exception down here, my custom exception, but this parse int and this file also throw their own exceptions, but I only catch them up here inside the main method. So once an exception occurs somewhere down here, the control is shifted directly to the appropriate catch statement up here without executing the rest of this file sum method.